Prior to its release at the beginning of November, I did a video on Arcane Season 2 as it came out that the budget for the entire series was north of $200 million. Far too much in my estimation. There is very little that you can release on streaming that is worthy of 9 digits. It just doesn't make financial sense. And because as much as I know about Season 1 and its quality of writing, it might have been worth it to some fans out there, the hefty price tag, but after the release of Season 2 and subsequent viewings of several reviews, it's like, okay, obviously you spent everything on the animation and licensing a bunch of goofy songs, and none of it went towards the quality of writing. Like, it is a nightmare. Every character was ruined, the plot made no sense, as the first season was just a classic study of class warfare, Zon versus Piltover. Well, I guess it was the Undercity, right, in the first season. It didn't get its name until the end of the season. That was an intimate, relatable story that was told extremely well and acted and animated tremendously. It is something that still resonates with people to this very day. Meanwhile, in Season 2, it culminates by fighting God. Wait, what happened? It's very convoluted. It makes very little sense, and the smooth brain assumption that, oh, it would have been better if I just would have had more time. You had an entire bottle episode with time travel in order to set up one of your many superfluous relationships. It was a gigantic downgrade, and one that is worthy of its flop status, because all of the accolades that they were trying to get, all right, in the pursuit of great, we fail to do good. Nobody's talking about this a month removed. Okay, it's wild to think, right? It lost the Fallout, another series that is so titanically stupid that eventually people are going to come around to just how dumb and how bad Season 1 actually was when Season 2, now that it's getting fast-tracked, I wonder if it's also going to get, well, if I just would have had more time, you know, the parody of capitalism, how if you nuke all of your customers, you'll just make all of the money. It was conveyed so much better in Season 1, but actually, you know, in hindsight, it wasn't that great, but it lost to that series with such great pedigree. Remember, when it was first being established, it's like, you guys are making an anime based on League of Legends? Okay, like, what, 10 years after everybody came to the conclusion that LOL is kind of cringe? It's like, that's a big gamble, but it ended up paying off. And you had a protagonist with a side-shaved, dyed haircut. It's like, what are you doing out here? But it was great. And you threw it all away because, lose at the Game Awards to Fallout for Best Adaptation, forgotten immediately after it ended. Nobody's talking about it. Legitimately, nobody was talking about it, even when it came out, because we were looking at ratings for other shows at the same time, and it didn't even occur to me. It's like, why isn't Arcane showing up in any of this stuff? It is wild, but Arcane was a financial failure. I said it at the time, and there were people that were bombarding even my video. I don't know what they say because, frankly, I don't pay attention to the comments, but now that it's a month removed, it's kind of like Rings of Power, right? Like how the first season was absolute crap, but no, it looks good, so that means it can trick some idiots. But when the second season came around, or even in the interim between the release of the 2 seasons, then you had the review class come out and go, well, actually, it was not very good. Season 2 wasn't even afforded that same grace by the Access Media, because even it was getting 6s and 7s, and from them, who have such a warped rating system, a 6 and a 7, that's practically like a 3 or a 4 from real people who use the entire spectrum of the 10-point scale. But I digress, okay? Talking about Arcane was a financial failure, suggests report. Well, what are we talking about here? Okay, new report from Bloomberg suggests that Arcane had been a financial failure for Riot Games, having won significantly over budget. Oh, wait, it was even over budget. Wait a minute. Now, failing to attract new players to Riot's moneymaker, League of Legends. Interesting, because you didn't have any of these articles for Season 1. In fact, people were watching this loose adaptation, wanting to give the game another shot. Now, did they stick around? Absolutely not. That's what the rest of this article is going to detail. But at least that drove people to the source material. Season 2, on the other hand, no. According to the report, Riot didn't have a robust plan to recoup the cost of the show, which ended up costing around $250 million for 2 seasons, which for 18 episodes, I don't care. They do look beautiful, okay? It's some of the best animation I have seen in years, but it doesn't make sense at all. Okay, like spending that much money on a show, on a streaming show, you're never going to recoup those costs. All right, and internally justified the cost by suggesting Arcane would help the business in non-monetary ways. This hasn't panned out. A spokesperson for Riot told Bloomberg that Arcane was a success when we look across all our internal measures, right? It was a success. We're just not going to tell you how and why it was a success. This isn't out of character for Riot Games, which has consistently spent heavily over the years, both to attract new players to League of Legends and also to diversify its business. Yeah, exactly. Fortiche, the animation studio behind Arcane, they've been doing a bunch of different character introductions, little videos for a very, very, very long time. I think might have been some day ones with Riot, and yeah, some of those animatics are very elaborate, very beautiful as well. So yeah, they've been spending plentifully for years. It's just now some of those bills are having to get paid, and there's some questions, and there's a severe lack of answers going around. Riot Forge was an attempt to the publisher to grow the brand Runeterra through spin-off games developed by talented independent studios, although several of the games were critical hits. None of them made a sizable commercial impression, and Riot Forge wound down earlier this year. Really? Okay, because I remember that launching. I just didn't hear anything else about it. The team behind the digital card game Legends of Runeterra was downsized earlier this year, as Riot announced it would only be updating the game sporadically for budgetary reasons. Arcane was another attempt at diversification, and although the show was award-winning and universally praised, really, Season 1 was, Season 2, not so much. Bloomberg suggests that there was a division within Riot about how much the company's resources were being allocated to the venture that doesn't generate revenue. Riot spent so much of its own money developing and marketing the show that it didn't make money from the production. There wasn't enough time allocated to creating tie-in content themed around Arcane for League of Legends. The success of the show surprised the League of Legends team, according to an executive producer. Arcane didn't attract a significant number of new players to LoL, according to someone familiar with the sign-up numbers. Although there was a noticeable number of people who downloaded and tried out League. There you go. This was after Season 1, not after Season 2, by the way. Not many players stayed. Given how poor the new player experience is in the league, this isn't a surprise. But according to other people who, oh boy, have really ended up, after the full release of this season, after everybody was going at the end, it's like, why do you call it a war when it was just a little bit of a scrimmage at the end? But no, okay. So you had several producers, okay, several of the higher ups that are there, give some interesting takes about things, and well, otherwise tank the reputation of the show going further, specifically Christian Linke. Alex Yee has been smart and mostly kept his mouth shut, but Christian Linke trying to run some PR, it's been an embarrassment. Almost as much as Season 2. But according to Riot, they don't care that Arcane was a financial miss. That's fine. We have several other projects in development that I'm sure cost similar amounts of money. And then when they flop and Riot has to scale back due to budgetary concerns, you only have yourself to blame. Arcane is universally recognized as one of the best shows to ever air on Netflix, with sky-high critic and audience scores across both of its seasons. Really now? Season 1 can confirm. Season 2, well, you know. In terms of dollars and cents, new reporting says the enormously pricey show was not exactly raking in cash for Riot Games, and may have lost them a bit. Luckily for Riot, leadership does not seem to care. Reporting from Bloomberg details the sky-high cost, $250 million, and how that did not exactly work out. Given that Netflix paid them $3 million an episode to air it, wow, and paid Riot's parent company Tencent another $3 million an episode for it to come to China, where they very much made some interesting decisions, especially in episode 7 in particular, how Vi and Caitlyn are trying to have a conversation in China through a wall, and in the North American release, well, they're doing some sticky stuff. Meanwhile, Vi's sister is contemplating the big oof. Like, there's some narrative decisions that just make absolutely no sense, but oh my god, my shippers, they're so happy because alternate timeline Echo, he fell in love with alternate timeline Powder, and then that means that he can go back to the original timeline, and then they could just pick up with this relationship between an Echo that isn't the guy who hopped between universes and the Powder that is now a murderous psychopath. Isn't it so awesome? Oh my god, time bomb forever. Oh my god, like hashtag shipping. Reporting from Bloomberg also says some employees did not love the idea of sinking resources into Arcane, especially when Riot laid off 11% of its staff. Yep, $250 million that could have went to people who I don't know, have one of the most toxic games online. Anyways, Arcane's very existence was controversial among some employees. Some Riot employees resisted the mandate to funnel resources into the show, according to 6 current and former staffers. The pricey passion project, backed by former chief executive officer Nicolas Laurent, sapped precious resources from League of Legends, Riot's most important business. Yes, of course. Report says that lack of revenue paused production on the other shows. Really? But in the wake of Arcane Season 2, there were notable quotes from the show's creator, Christian Linke. Oh my god, this guy said he's in a class all of his own. He's really getting close to that Neil Druckmann area of stop talking, you're hurting your already bad product. They were heading into other regions and other characters for future series. That's big news that they're pausing production because this shit was so bad. And there's no word on how costs may come down to make that happen if they ever do. Ooh, that's bad. In the wake of all this reporting, Riot co-founder Mark Trindamere Merrill made a Reddit post. Oh my god. Oh, this is why I can't get behind any any Riot stuff, because, oh my god, when you're run by Redditors, why didn't you expect your product to ultimately fail? Saying that it was cynical to review Arcane through its financial lens. Oh my god. So what? It was a massive flop. So what if a plot doesn't make sense? It was just rushed. Everything else will be better, okay? Give us another chance, bro. These people think we make things like Arcane to sell skins, when in reality we sell skins to make things like Arcane. Oh my god. Do we get everything right? Nope. But we are focused on the short-term extraction of profits. We are focused on delivering exceptional value to our audience over the long term, again and again and again. To be clear, Arcane crushed it for players, and so it crushed us for us, except for, you know, it didn't drive anybody to the game. It's not being discussed less than a month after its release. Actually, in hindsight, people are now looking back on it and go, wow, it's actually a little bit more than just rushed. Even with the time that they had, it's like there was a distinct drop-off in dialogue quality. There were conversations that could have very easily happened that simply didn't, because we need to have our state-mandated music videos. It's a noble philosophy. And when you are owned by a technology giant like Tencent, it's impossible to imagine that there are financial pressures on them or on projects like this, which is what the original report says. And selling skins to make Arcane is essentially the definition of taking away from the core business of League of Legends, if that's where game revenue is headed. Yeah, it's a running joke among Arcane fans that players were interested in the world. They'd hopped into the often impenetrable League of Legends. They would bounce right off. And the original report said Arcane did not did in fact not add too many players. Yes, though League of Legends does remain one of the largest games in the world. And yeah, it's also like nobody else is pointing out, it's like, okay, specifically Victor, as he's tremendously different in the show as opposed to in the game. But now they're just going to go ahead and bridge that, because as much as Arcane isn't about selling skins, you're changing one of your characters intrinsically. Like his entire rig is getting swapped out. Like he goes from being the Machine Herald to Goompy Wafy Jesus allegory. Like, what are we doing? Nobody's happy about that, but you guys want to push that because Arcane's big and important. But apparently it's still a success by all of our internal metrics, except for the ones that you can independently measure. And we're just going to go ahead and force these changes. What do you guys mean you don't like the show anymore? What do you mean it's a flop? Oh, right. We'll eventually have to come back around to that when the waters are safe to discuss on that. But for me, nah, I don't think so. We'll talk about how much of a disaster this was right goddamn now, because as much as you want to astroturf your interpretation that show good because shipping, I don't think so. Arcane Season 2, if it was good, it would still be talked about, but it's not, so it's dead. Sucks to suck, I guess. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.